The hospital corridor stretches before me like a fluorescent-lit tunnel to hell. And my heels click against the linoleum in perfect rhythm with my racing heart. 3 missed calls, 1 cryptic voicemail, and now this, my mother refusing to see me. I'm Sarah, and until today, I thought I knew exactly who I could trust. Mrs. Thompson? A nurse touches my arm, her face pinched with concern. Your mother is stable now, but she's quite adamant about not having visitors. That's impossible. I'm her primary caregiver. We live together. My voice cracks, betraying the panic I'm trying to suppress. There must be some mistake. The nurse glances at her clipboard. She was quite clear. Perhaps you could try again tomorrow? Clear about what exactly? I step closer, forcing her to meet my eyes. What did she say? I'm sorry, but... Please. My fingers dig into the strap of my purse. She's all I have. The nurse's professional mask slips slightly. She said, and I quote, "Tell Sarah she knows what she did." That's all. The words hit me like a physical blow. I sink into one of the waiting room chairs, my mind racing through the past few weeks. Nothing makes sense. Mom and I have been closer than ever since her accident 6 months ago, since I convinced Mark we needed to move her in with us. My phone buzzes. Speaking of Mark. Hey, honey. How is she? His voice carries that perfect note of concern that usually soothes me. Today, something about it scrapes against my nerves. She won't see me. I swallow hard. She told the nurse I know what I did, but Mark, I don't know what she's talking about. A pause. Too long. That's strange. Maybe the heat got to her? It has been unusually warm in the house lately. The house? My free hand clenches into a fist. What do you mean? Well, you know how your mother's always complaining about the temperature. I thought it might help if we limited the air conditioning use in her wing of the house. The pieces click together with sickening clarity. You did what? Sarah, be reasonable. Our electricity bill. She has circulation issues since the accident. Her doctor specifically said, I stop, remembering Mom's flushed face last week, how she'd been wearing only light nightgowns lately. The nurse said she collapsed from heat exhaustion. You're overreacting. Besides, she's fine now, isn't she? The casual dismissal in his tone makes my stomach turn. I think about all the small changes over the past months, Mom becoming quieter, more withdrawn. Mark's increasing irritation whenever I spent time with her. I need to go, I say flatly. Wait, honey. Don't do anything rash. Let's talk about this when you get home. I'm making your favorite dinner. The manipulation is so obvious now that I'm looking for it. How many other things have I missed? I'll be home soon, I lie, already walking toward Mom's room. Some rules are meant to be broken. I find her lying there, small and pale against the white sheets. Her eyes are open, staring at the ceiling. Mom? My voice wavers. She turns her head away. Go home to your husband, Sarah. Not until you tell me what's really been happening. I move closer, noting how she tenses. Please, Mom. Whatever it is. Whatever it is? She laughs, a harsh sound I've never heard from her before. Ask Mark about the nursing home brochures in his desk. Ask him about the talks we've been having when you're at work. Ask him why he told me I was becoming a burden to you, that you were too afraid to tell me yourself. The world tilts sideways. I grab the bed rail to steady myself, feeling the cool metal bite into my palm. I start, but the truth is already unfolding in my mind, a horrible origami of betrayal and manipulation. Mom finally looks at me, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I thought I was protecting you by staying quiet. I thought I was being strong. I reach for her hand, and this time she lets me take it. We were both wrong about that, I say softly. But we won't be quiet anymore. The drive home from the hospital feels like navigating through quicksand. Every traffic light holds me hostage to memories of the past 6 months, Mom's brave smile as we helped her move in, Mark's increasingly tight-lipped responses whenever I mentioned making the arrangement permanent. I pull into our driveway at 9:47 p.m. The house glows with warm light, and the scent of garlic and herbs wafts through the air when I open the door. A perfect domestic scene, except for the silence from Mom's wing of the house. There you are. Mark appears in the kitchen doorway, dish towel over his shoulder. I was getting worried. How's Diane? I study his face, the concern in his eyes, the slight furrow between his brows. 6 months ago, I would have melted into his arms, grateful for his support. Now, I see the performance. She's staying overnight for observation. I set my purse down carefully, buying time. The doctors want to monitor her heart. Her heart? His eyebrows shoot up. I thought it was just heat exhaustion. Funny how that happens when someone can't use air conditioning in 90-degree weather. He sighs, reaching for my hand. I step back. Sarah, we talked about this. The bills. Did we? Because I remember you mentioning the electric bill once, and I remember telling you Mom's health comes first. You're upset. Let's eat first, then we can discuss this rationally. He gestures toward the dining room, where I spot 2 place settings. Just 2. Where's Mom's plate? I assumed she'd be staying in the hospital. He shrugs. No point in wasting food. The casual dismissal hits harder than any accusation. I move past him into the kitchen, opening drawers until I find what I'm looking for, the household files where we keep all our bills. What are you doing? I spread the electric bills across the counter. May, June, July. The numbers tell their own story. Our usage is down 30% from last year. My voice sounds strange, distant. That's not cost-cutting, Mark. That's cruelty. You're being dramatic. Your mother's fine. She's not fine. The stack of papers scatters as I slam my hand down. She collapsed today because you've been torturing her with heat, and God knows what else. His face changes, hardening into something I've never seen before. Torturing her? I've bent over backwards to accommodate her living here. Do you know what it's like, coming home to find her wheeling around our space, rearranging things, acting like she owns the place? Our space? I repeat. This is her home now. No, it's not. He steps closer, voice dropping. This is our home, Sarah. The home we built together. The home where we were supposed to start our family, remember? The words hit like a slap. We'd been trying for a baby when Mom had her accident. I'd put fertility treatments on hold, knowing we couldn't handle both situations at once. Don't you dare use that against me. I'm not using anything. I'm stating facts. His tone turns reasonable, practiced. We can't put our lives on hold indefinitely. Your mother has options, good ones. I've been researching facilities. Behind my back. Because you refuse to see reason. He runs a hand through his hair, frustration breaking through his calm facade. I'm trying to save our marriage here, Sarah. Can't you see that? I look around our kitchen, the granite countertops we'd picked together, the fancy coffee maker he'd surprised me with last Christmas. All the trappings of a perfect life, maintained at the expense of basic humanity. Save our marriage? I laugh, and it sounds like breaking glass. You know what I see? I see the man who promised to love and honor me systematically torturing my mother because she inconvenienced him. That's not. I'm going to pack some things. I cut him off, already moving toward the stairs. Mom and I will stay at a hotel tonight. His hand catches my arm. Don't do anything rash. Let's sleep on it, talk tomorrow when we're both calmer. I look down at his fingers wrapped around my wrist, then up at his face, still trying to control, to manipulate, to shape reality to his liking. You're right about one thing, I say quietly. We do need to talk tomorrow. About divorce lawyers. His grip tightens for a fraction of a second before releasing me. As I climb the stairs, I hear him calling Linda, his mother. Perfect. Let him run to mommy. I've got some calls to make myself. The hotel room key feels like a surrender in my hand. I should be packing mom's things, making calls, taking action. Instead, I'm standing in our home office, staring at Mark's desk drawer like it might bite me. His words echo, I've been researching facilities. The drawer sticks when I pull it. Inside, beneath a stack of warranties and manuals, I find a manila folder labeled Care Options. My hands shake as I open it. Glossy brochures spill out: Sunset Valley Assisted Living, Golden Years Care Home, Paradise Gardens. Each one marked with post-it notes in Mark's precise handwriting: affordable. No waiting list. Takes difficult cases. My phone buzzes. Linda's name flashes on the screen. I silence it, but not before noticing 3 missed calls from her. Of course Mark went crying to mommy. Something catches my eye, a letter poking out from behind the brochures. Official letterhead, Thompson Family Trust. What are you doing? I whirl around. Mark stands in the doorway, his face unreadable. Finding out exactly how long you've been planning to get rid of my mother. Getting rid of, Jesus, Sarah, you make it sound sinister. I'm trying to find solutions. Solutions? I wave the trust letter. Like this? Care to explain why you're accessing your family trust without telling me? He moves faster than I expect, snatching the paper from my hand. That's private. Private? Like the way you've been privately torturing my mother? Or privately planning to ship her off to some facility? You want to talk about private? His voice rises. How about the private conversations you and your mother have, excluding me from my own home? How about the private way you decided to move her in without really discussing it with me? We did discuss it. No, you informed me. There's a difference. He steps closer, and for the first time, I see raw anger in his eyes. You know what's really private? The fact that your mother's been sabotaging our marriage since day one. That's ridiculous. Is it? Who convinced you to postpone fertility treatments? Who always has some crisis when we plan a vacation? Who needs your attention every time we try to have a date night? Each accusation lands like a physical blow. She had an accident, Mark. She needed us. She needed you. I needed my wife. He softens his voice, reaching for me. I still need my wife. I step back, bumping into the desk. Something shifts behind me, a stack of papers sliding, revealing another folder. This one's labeled Renovation Plans. Mark lunges for it, but I'm faster. Inside are architectural drawings of our house, with an entire wing redesigned. Notes in the margins catch my eye: Mother's suite. Dad's study. Your parents, I whisper. You're planning to move your parents in. Sarah. You're trying to force my mother out so you can move your parents in? My voice rises with each word. While she's in the hospital? It's not like that. Mom and Dad need help too, and their family. And my mother isn't? The rage builds, hot and clean. Or is it different because your parents can still walk? Because they're not an inconvenience? They wouldn't take over our lives. He slams his hand on the desk. They understand boundaries. They respect marriage. They're not damaged goods. I finish quietly. Not like my mother. His silence is answer enough. I reach for my phone, dialing the hospital. Hello? This is Sarah Thompson. I need to speak to my mother's doctor about changing her emergency contacts and medical proxy. Mark's face darkens. What are you doing? I hold up a finger as the nurse connects me. Yes, I want to remove Mark Thompson from all documentation. Immediately. I pause, listening. Yes, I understand. I'll be there in 20 minutes to sign the papers. You can't do this, Mark says as I hang up. Watch me. I grab my purse, then turn back to face him. Oh, and Mark? When I get back, I expect my mother's room to be exactly as it is now. Touch one thing, and I'll make sure everyone, including your precious mother, knows exactly what kind of man you really are. His face contorts. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I head for the door, then pause. You know what the funny thing is? You were so worried about my mother taking over our lives, you never noticed you'd become the monster in this story. The sound of something shattering against the wall follows me out. I don't look back. I've seen enough. The hospital parking lot at midnight feels like neutral territory. I sit in my car, staring at the stack of signed papers on the passenger seat, medical proxy forms, emergency contact updates, preliminary divorce filings. My phone lights up again, Linda, then Richard, then Mark in rapid succession. I silence them all. A tap on my window makes me jump. Dr. Reynolds stands there, looking concerned. Mrs. Thompson? Your mother's asking for you. The walk to Mom's room feels different now. No more confusion, no more doubt. Just the weight of decisions that can't be undone. Mom's sitting up in bed, her hands folded in her lap. You shouldn't have come back so late. Had some paperwork to handle. I settle into the chair beside her. Mom, I need you to tell me everything. Every conversation with Mark, every incident. All of it. She closes her eyes. It started small. Comments about how tired you looked, how stressed. Then suggestions about facilities that could help us all. When I refused. She twists the blanket between her fingers. He started moving things. My photos would disappear, then reappear in boxes. The thermostat would be reset when you weren't home. My medication would be misplaced. Each word feels like acid in my veins. Why didn't you tell me? He said you were talking about starting fertility treatments again. That my presence was the only thing holding you back. Her voice cracks. I thought if I could just endure it. A noise at the door interrupts us. Linda Thompson stands there, perfectly coiffed even at midnight, her face a mask of maternal concern. Sarah, darling. We've been so worried. Were you? I stand, positioning myself between her and Mom. Or were you just checking if your son's plan was working? Plan? I don't know what you mean. She steps into the room, reaching for my hand. Mark's beside himself. He says you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months. I pull away from her touch. Did you know? About the renovation plans? About moving you and Richard in? Something flickers across her perfect facade, triumph, maybe, or satisfaction. Well, naturally we discussed options. With your mother's condition. My condition? Mom's voice cuts through the room like steel. You mean the condition your son made worse by systematically torturing me? Linda's mask slips further. Torture is a very strong word. Mark was simply trying to help everyone see reason. By causing my mother's collapse? The pieces click together suddenly. The renovation plans are dated 3 months ago. You knew. You all knew. Sometimes difficult decisions must be made for the good of the family. Linda straightens her designer jacket. Really, Sarah, you're being melodramatic. No one's been tortured. We're simply trying to create a more suitable arrangement. Suitable? I laugh, and it sounds like breaking glass. Like how Mark made it suitable for my mother by hiding her medication. Or did you suggest that technique? Linda's face hardens. You don't want to do this, Sarah. Think about your future. About children. About. Get out. The words come out soft, deadly. Get out before I call security and tell them exactly how your son engineered my mother's collapse. You wouldn't dare create a scandal. Try me. I pull out my phone. I wonder how your charity board would react to hearing about elder abuse? Or Mark's law firm? She backs toward the door, her perfect composure cracking. You'll regret this. Family should stick together. You're right. I move closer, lowering my voice. That's exactly what Mom and I are doing. Now get out. After she leaves, Mom reaches for my hand. Sarah, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I squeeze her fingers gently. But first, we need to make a call. To whom? I pull out a business card I'd found in Mark's desk, one he'd clearly never intended to use. To Dad. It's time we had a real conversation about what happened 15 years ago. And about how he can help us make sure the Thompsons never hurt anyone else again. Mom's eyes widen. You found him? No. I smile, and it feels like baring teeth. But Mark did. And he was stupid enough to keep the contact information. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about rebuilding what others tried to destroy, and making them watch as their own carefully constructed world falls apart. The business card feels heavy in my hand as I sit in my father's law office. James Carter, the name I haven't spoken in 15 years, is emblazoned in gold letters on his desk nameplate. He hasn't aged like I expected, he's sharper, harder. Elder abuse cases are complex, he says, reviewing the documentation I've brought. But financial manipulation, medical neglect, these are prosecutable offenses. I don't want prosecution. I lean forward. I want destruction. His eyebrows lift slightly. That doesn't sound like the daughter I remember. You don't know the daughter I've become. The words come out colder than intended. You made sure of that when you walked away. He sets down the papers. Is that what your mother told you? We're not here about that. Aren't we? He stands, moves to his window. Mark Thompson contacted me 6 months ago. Did you know that? The air leaves my lungs. What? He wanted information about your mother's accident. About the settlement she received. He turns back to me. About why I really left. My hands clench. Stop trying to. Your mother's accident wasn't random, Sarah. The driver who hit her? He worked for Richard Thompson's company. The world tilts sideways. That's impossible. That was before I even met Mark. Richard Thompson has a pattern of targeting vulnerable women. Arranging accidents, then having his son swoop in as the perfect solution. He pulls out a thick file. You're not the first. But you could be the last. My phone buzzes, Mark's name on the screen. When I don't answer, a text appears, coming home soon. Mom and Dad want to discuss living arrangements. How many? My voice sounds distant. 3 that we know of. All followed the same pattern: accident, settlement, marriage, then mysterious institutionalization of the mother. He pauses. The wives never contested anything. They were too grateful to their loving husbands who'd helped them through such difficult times. Bile rises in my throat. You knew. You knew and you never warned me? I tried. Remember that background check I insisted on running when you got engaged? The one you refused because I was trying to control your life like always? Memory hits like a slap, the argument, the tears, Mom taking my side. Why didn't you try harder? Would you have listened? His voice gentles. You needed to see it yourself. But now we can stop them. Another text from Mark: your mother's room is ready at Sunset Valley. We can move her tomorrow. No. I stand abruptly. We're not just stopping them. We're taking everything. Sarah. You're the best corporate lawyer in the state, Dad. That's why Mark contacted you, isn't it? To handle the trust fund transfer? I smile, and it feels like breaking glass. So let's give him exactly what he wants. Understanding dawns in his eyes. A trap. Better. A choice. I pull out my phone, typing quickly, coming home now. You're right. We need to talk about arrangements. They'll suspect something if I'm suddenly involved. No, they won't. Because you're going to tell them exactly what they want to hear, that you've always regretted choosing Mom over their business interests. That you want to make things right. And your mother? Is being discharged tomorrow into their perfect trap. I stand straighter. Except this time, we'll be ready. My phone buzzes again, Mark's response, perfect. Mom's making your favorite dinner. Dad's bringing the trust paperwork. It's dangerous, Dad warns. If they realize. They won't. They're too convinced of their own brilliance. I gather my things. Besides, they taught me well. Family should stick together, right? He studies me for a long moment. You're not doing this just for revenge anymore, are you? No. I head for the door. I'm doing it because some monsters need to see their own reflections before you destroy them. I pause. Are you with me? Until the end. He picks up his phone. I'll call Richard. Set things in motion. As I leave, another text arrives. From Mom this time. Are you sure about this? I type back, trust me. It's time we showed them what real family loyalty looks like. The elevator doors close on my reflection. I barely recognize the woman staring back. She looks dangerous, determined. Good. They'll never see me coming. The family dinner table has never felt more like a battlefield. Linda beams at me from across the perfectly arranged place settings while Richard shuffles papers beside his wine glass. Mark's hand rests possessively on my shoulder, heavy as a chain. James was so understanding about everything, Richard says, sliding the trust documents forward. Weren't you, old friend? Dad nods, his lawyer's mask firmly in place. Water under the bridge. Family comes first. Mom sits silently in her wheelchair, wearing the face I've seen too many times lately, quiet, defeated. Except now I notice the slight tension in her hands, the watchful gleam in her eyes. She's ready. Sarah, darling, Linda reaches across the table, her diamond bracelet catching the light. We're so relieved you've come around about Sunset Valley. It's really the best solution for everyone. Of course. I force a smile. Mark helped me see reason. Mark's fingers dig deeper into my shoulder. I knew you'd understand eventually. Sometimes we have to make hard choices for the greater good. Speaking of choices, Richard interrupts, these papers just need your signature, Sarah. Then we can proceed with the transfer of assets and the new living arrangements. I reach for the pen, but Mom's wheelchair scrapes against the floor. I need my medication first. I'll get it, Mark offers quickly. No. I stand. I know where everything is. In the kitchen, I grab Mom's pill organizer and my phone, checking the recording app. Still running. Every word, every confession, captured perfectly. I text Dad, ready? His response comes instantly, police on standby. Security footage confirmed. Get clear first. Sarah? Mark's voice carries from the dining room. Everything okay? Coming. I return with the pills and a glass of water, carefully settling Mom's medication beside her plate. She takes them slowly, deliberately. Now then, Richard slides the papers closer. Shall we? I pick up the pen, studying the documents. Just one question first. I look directly at Richard. How many other women did you arrange accidents for before my mother? The room freezes. Mark's hand tightens painfully on my shoulder. I don't know what you're talking about, Richard says smoothly. James, control your daughter. Oh, I think you do. I pull out my phone, playing the recording from earlier, Richard's voice discussing previous arrangements with Mark. Planning Mom's accident, calculating settlement amounts. Linda's perfect smile cracks. Mark? It's not what you think, Mark starts, but I cut him off. It's exactly what we think. The accident, the marriage, the systematic abuse, all carefully planned. I stand, shrugging off Mark's grip. But you made one mistake. Sarah, Mark's voice turns dangerous. Think very carefully about what you're doing. I have. I moved toward Mom. You assumed I was like those other wives, so grateful for my knight in shining armor that I'd ignore the monster underneath. Richard stands abruptly. This is ridiculous. We're leaving. No, you're not. Dad's voice cuts through the tension. The police are outside. They have everything, the recordings, security footage, financial records. It's over. Mark lunges for me, but Mom's wheelchair rolls suddenly, blocking his path. In the chaos, Linda screams, Richard knocks over his wine glass, and the front door bursts open. Everything happens fast after that. Handcuffs click, rights are read, Linda collapses in theatrical sobs. Through it all, I stand perfectly still, watching Mark's face as his carefully constructed world crumbles. You'll regret this, he hisses as they lead him past. You're nothing without me. No, I say quietly. I was nothing with you. That was the point, wasn't it? Later, after the police clear out and Mom's settled in her room, her real room, not some facility, Dad finds me in the kitchen. Staring at the ruins of dinner. You okay? I look at the family photos on the wall, all those perfect moments, carefully staged. They'll make bail. Probably. But the evidence is solid. They're finished. It doesn't feel like enough. My hands shake as I gather broken glass. All those other women. Then we'll find them. He takes the glass from my hands. Together this time. I nod, feeling the weight of everything, victory, exhaustion, grief, crash over me at once. I trusted him. I loved him. I know. Dad's voice gentles. That's what made you stronger than them. You loved, and you still fought back. From upstairs, Mom calls my name. As I head up, I pause to take down one last wedding photo. Some things need to break completely before they can be rebuilt. And some monsters need to learn that their greatest weapons, love, trust, family, can become their undoing. The courthouse bathroom mirror reflects a woman I barely recognize. 3 months of legal battles have stripped away any softness I once had. Mom wheels up beside me as I adjust my blazer. He's here, she says quietly. With his whole family. Of course he is. Mark never could resist an audience for his performances. The preliminary hearing should be simple, just establishing grounds for the criminal charges. But nothing with the Thompsons is ever simple. As we enter the courtroom, I spot them, Linda dabbing theatrical tears, Richard in an expensive suit that screams respectability, and Mark. Mark looking exactly like the man I fell in love with. That's the most dangerous thing about him. Dad meets us at the prosecution table, his face grim. They've filed a countermotion. Claiming your mother's mentally unfit to testify. The rage rises so fast it threatens to choke me. On what grounds? Sarah. Mark's voice carries across the room, soft and concerned. Can we talk? Just for a minute? Before I can respond, he's there, close enough that I catch the familiar scent of his cologne. You don't want to do this, he murmurs. Think about what it will do to your mother, having to relive everything in public. Don't you dare pretend to care about her now. I've always cared. His hand brushes mine, and I jerk away. About both of you. This whole thing. It's a misunderstanding. Dad's lawyers can make it all go away. We can start fresh. Mr. Thompson, Dad's voice cuts through the manipulation. Step away from my client. Mark's mask slips for just a second, long enough for me to see the rage underneath. But then Linda appears, all maternal concern. "Sarah, darling, please. We're family." "Family?" Mom's voice carries clearly through the murmuring courtroom. "Is that what you call orchestrating accidents for vulnerable women? Planning their institutionalization?" Linda blanches. Richard steps forward, but the bailiff moves closer, watching. "You have no proof of those allegations," Richard says smoothly. "And soon you'll have no credibility either. Imagine how it will look, a bitter divorcee and her mentally unstable mother, making wild accusations." "Actually," Dad pulls out a folder, "we have something better than allegations. Meet Claire Peterson and Maria Santos." Two women stand up in the gallery. I recognize them from the case files, previous victims of the Thompson scheme. Mark's composure cracks. "You can't." "We can and we did." I step closer, lowering my voice. "Did you really think I'd let you do this to anyone else?" "Everything I did was for us," he hisses. "You ungrateful." "Mr. Thompson." The judge's voice booms through the room. "Take your seat or be removed." As security separates us, I catch Richard's expression, not anger or fear, but calculation. He whispers something to his lawyer, who immediately requests a brief recess. "They're going to offer a deal," Dad predicts. "No deals." I watch Mark being led back to his seat, remembering all the times his hands felt like safety instead of chains. They need to face everything they've done. The hearing proceeds. Each piece of evidence lands like a hammer blow: financial records, medical reports, testimony from facility staff who were paid to look the other way. With each revelation, Linda's sobs grow louder, Richard's face grows darker, and Mark stares at me with something between hatred and desperation. When it's Mom's turn to testify, her voice never wavers. She describes the psychological torture, the isolation, the calculated cruelty. Through it all, I hold her wheelchair handles, feeling the slight tremors that betray her fear. The judge's decision is swift: criminal charges will proceed against all three Thompsons. As they're let out, Mark turns back one last time. "I loved you," he says, and for the first time, I hear the truth in his voice. It's not a defense or manipulation, it's the most damning evidence of all. "I know," I reply. "That's what makes you monsters, not victims. You loved us, and you hurt us anyway." The courtroom doors close behind them with a final thud. Mom reaches for my hand, and Dad places his on my shoulder. Together, we walk out into the sunlight, leaving the shadows behind. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about surviving them, and making sure they can never hurt anyone else again. The morning paper sits unopened on our new kitchen table, Mark's conviction headline waiting inside. Mom wheels past, setting down 2 coffee mugs with practiced ease. "You don't have to read it," she says. "Yes, I do." I unfold the paper slowly, scanning the details I already know. 15 years for Mark. 20 for Richard. Linda turns state's evidence, trading a lighter sentence for testimony about other victims. "Claire called last night," Mom mentions, adjusting her chair beside me. The support group is growing. The support group, my unexpected legacy from this nightmare. 7 women now, all survivors of the Thompson schemes, all rebuilding their lives together. Some days we talk about healing. Some days we plot ways to protect others from predators wearing wedding rings. Dad appears in the doorway, briefcase in hand. "Ready for the foundation meeting?" The Carter Foundation for Family Justice, another unexpected outcome. Dad's way of making amends, using his legal expertise and connections to help victims of domestic abuse. My way of turning revenge into revolution. Almost. I gather the papers I've been reviewing, profiles of suspicious accidents, patterns of institutional abuse. Names of lawyers and doctors who looked the other way. Just need to finish these case files. "Sarah." Mom's hand covers mine. "You don't have to save everyone. No. I meet her eyes. But I can try. The doorbell rings, probably Claire or Maria, coming to help with research. Instead, I open the door to find Linda Thompson. She looks smaller without her designer clothes and perfect makeup. Prison orange doesn't suit her. They granted me a day release, she says quickly, before I can speak. To set things right. Mom's wheelchair squeaks behind me. Dad moves closer, protective. There are more, Linda continues. Not just Richard's victims. Other families, other schemes. I have names. I study her face, the genuine fear, the desperate need for redemption. Why now? Because you showed me something. Her hands twist together. When you chose your mother over Mark, when you fought back instead of staying quiet. You showed me what real family looks like. I think about Mark in his cell, probably still believing he acted from love. About Richard, maintaining his innocence even as evidence mounted. About all the women who weren't as lucky as me, who didn't have a father to return or a mother to fight for. Come in, I say finally. But understand something, this isn't forgiveness. I know. She steps inside, clutching her purse like a shield. It's justice. Dad leads her to the study, where our case files wait. Mom squeezes my hand as she passes, a silent reminder of how far we've come. I return to the kitchen, to the newspaper with its headlines about justice and closure. But my eyes drift to the window, to the garden Mom's planning for spring. To the wheelchair ramp Dad built himself, making up for lost time with every nail. To the empty picture frames waiting to be filled with new memories. My phone buzzes, a text from Claire, another woman came forward. Says she recognized Richard's pattern from the news. I start typing a response, but another message appears. Thank you for showing us we could fight back. That's the thing about revenge, it doesn't always look like what you expect. Sometimes it looks like a support group in a living room, sharing stories and strategies. Sometimes it looks like a father and daughter rebuilding trust over case files and coffee. Sometimes it looks like a mother learning to garden from a wheelchair, refusing to let anyone clip her wings again. And sometimes, like today, it looks like opening your door to the enemy, not for forgiveness, but because justice is bigger than any single story. I look at the empty frames on our wall, waiting to be filled. There's room for more stories, more healing, more justice. There's room for everything except the perfect lies we used to believe. Mom calls from the study, Sarah? We need your expertise here. I leave the newspaper unopened. Some headlines matter less than the work still to be done, the lives still to be saved, the truths still to be told. After all, the best revenge isn't just about ending something. It's about beginning something better.